Hey everybody, it's Taki 117 back with Taki Space Program, and we are sitting on the launch pad with CINCOM 3, the sister satellite to CINCOM 2 that we launched last episode. I did get a contract for this, and it's got an additional, here it is. It's got an additional parameter, and that my inclination must be below 3 degrees. Because this is a geostationary satellite and not just geosynchronous. So launching in 3, 2, 1. Ignition and liftoff. And again, I am just going to go straight to geosynchronous altitude from launch. I'm not going to go into orbit first and then perform a Hohmann transfer. This saves fuel, and hopefully my antenna doesn't explode on this one. I'm going to take a little bit more of a higher arc, I think. 50 meters a second at 450 meters in altitude. Chugging along quite nicely. I do also have a contract to put another orbital telescope up. I know that was an issue last episode. My processor had been destroyed, burnt out by staring into the sun, because that's a bad thing. So I've built a sort of a Hubble replica. Now the Hubble Space Telescope was launched by the Space Shuttle and is actually at the upper edge of the Space Shuttle's range. It takes almost all of the fuel in the Space Shuttle to get there so that they can perform maintenance on it. Unfortunately, mine is going infinitely farther than any of my other rockets. My space telescope is going up to about 5,000 kilometers, or 5 megameters. Coming along quite nicely here. 65 degrees by about 5 kilometers, hitting that bullet point quite nicely. Let's go ahead and drop just a little bit more. Have less than 10 seconds for our boosters. Like I said, one of these days I might put parachutes on them. Probably not, since they tend to fall apart as soon as they're jettisoned. 4 seconds to booster burnout. Booster engine cutoff. There we go. Yeah, as soon as they get pushed by that. And dropping down to about 45 degrees, a little bit of a wobble there, just because I do have these fins. I haven't really figured out if I want them to yaw or not. Or actually, it looks like roll. Roll seems to be the issue here. Let's go ahead and just turn that off. And the great thing about doing that is if I do it to one of them, because they are in symmetry, it will do it to all of them. You can already see that precession is stopping. Now pitch down just a little bit. Follow that surface velocity vector. We are doing a lot better this time around as well. Remember, I had that issue with overheating on the CINCOM 2 probe. So there we go, getting into the upper atmosphere. You can see my plume increasing in size. This is due to a decrease in atmospheric pressure. There's nothing holding it into that nice tight flame anymore. So as soon as it gets past the engine bell here, it just expands. You can also see this a lot in the old Apollo videos, if you look very closely. Alright, let's hold there. That looks like a good place to hold while we continue our ascent. Our time to apoapsis is still increasing. That is a positive point. We are now at about 1,000 meters a second, just under 1,000 meters a second here in the upper atmosphere. We are still in the atmosphere though. Alright, we can go to surface velocity positive now. That will tip our rocket down until we are in the center of our velocity vector there. Beautiful launch. Absolutely beautiful. I'm going to bring that down. That will unfortunately cause me to have to stage twice. However, I'm not going to stage just yet. Now I can point orbit prograde. You can see I'm heating up just a little bit there. Hopefully we don't run into the same overheating issue that we had last time. I don't believe we will. I believe I'm already past that point. The atmosphere is very thin up here, and we should not overheat at all. Famous last words, of course. Here we go. We are nearly at orbital velocity, 1,700, 1,800 meters a second here. 52 kilometer apoapsis, but it is about a minute away, and we are pushing it out fairly quickly. As I explained in the last video, the reason I'm doing this so low to... a little bit of heat. But the reason I'm doing it so close to Earth is because of the Oberth effect. I'm watching that temperature gauge very closely here. Primarily to make sure that it doesn't overheat and does eventually go away. It does look like it is very slowly creeping up. The good news is I should be able to cut my engines before it gets there. Again, I'm going to 2.8 megameters. I'm very concerned about overheating at this point. Oh, camera switch, that means we are more or less in orbit. It does look like... Just gonna go ahead and cut my engine. Nope. Okay. Well, there went that plan. Apparently there is a bug of some sort. Does not look like it's highlighting that bottom panel. Well, I guess it is. But yes, it appears that there is a bug of some sort in this particular fairing that does not protect my satellite from overheating. So, oh well. Again, I have another... That's entirely too high. So I want to circularize at an altitude of 2868.33 kilometers, 730 meters a second. Yep, I do have to stage twice. And my... Yep, my dish is gone. So I'm going to go ahead and activate my standby antenna with a range of 2.5 megameters. I'm also going to activate, if I can select it. Can I not select it? There it goes. Activate that antenna, so I have a 1 megameter range, just in case. Still have plenty of power generation here, so that's no longer a problem. That was a issue in my earlier videos. Alright, so we're gonna go ahead and just execute that node. It's gonna point me where I need to be. I do also have a contract to put a communication network around the moon. I need 95% coverage, and I currently have 55% coverage. Can I? Oh, it won't. Oh, there it is. Oops, see, now it says I have 30-ish% coverage. It fluctuates, so I think what I'm going to do in order to test my interplanetary satellite delivery system is actually do that around the moon. Now the issue is, as you can see, I have 75% coverage, 80% coverage. The issue is it has to be up for 3 days. And if those satellites drift out of position prior to that 3 days, this contract will not complete. Although, I think with the addition of another couple of satellites in higher orbits, I should be fine. Here we are executing that node. It is a 1 minute burn. It's kind of a doozy there. Now with this one, I'm going to perform the maneuver. There goes my booster. Now I'm going to perform my maneuver with this flight pack here, the circularization, and then if I need to, I will jettison my smaller satellite and perform the plane change with that. And then, adjust my orbit as needed, because this has about 600 meters a second of delta V, I believe. I could be wrong. I probably am wrong. I really like these tiny little engines. I almost wish they were separate. But the Agena target vehicle, which is what this is supposed to go on, was the docking target for the Gemini missions, where they learned how to rendezvous and dock in orbit prior to the manned Apollo missions to the moon. So that was one of the things that Apollo had to do, was they had to turn around and dock to the Lunar Excursion Module. As I perform in episode, I believe it's episode 35, where they they deploy the command service module, flip around, and then dock back with the Lunar Excursion module and extract it from the third stage of the Saturn V rocket. Speaking of Saturn, there it is. Okay, so we are within our range, so now we are going to set our inclination to 0. That's going to take 500 meters a second of delta V. So we're going to execute that node as well. I do have plenty of delta V here, that's not an issue. I can also let's see, I can balance all of them. No. Ooh, oh, passed outside this. Transfer out and then stop. Okay, I don't want to do that. Appears we passed through the shadow of Earth there for a moment. That's why everything went black. I apologize. There's Jupiter, Uranus. I always like hovering over these points to see what they actually are, if they are anything. Like Neptune's over there. I am still connected, which is good. Am I bouncing off of anything? I am. Yeah, I have a satellite there, one of my interplanetary communication satellites I'm actually bouncing off of. You can see SYNCOM 2. I'm in a slightly different orbit. That is primarily due to launch angle and time and whatnot. But the awesome part about this is I can bounce it off of SYNCOM 2. See, you see my moon network. Some of the satellites have drifted out of position. So I really just need probably a couple equatorial and maybe a couple of polar satellites kind of far out, just so I have complete continuous coverage. But it would be a very good test of my interplanetary satellite communication system. One that failed and I just kind of deployed all over the place. You can see my inclination changing here. It is dropping. Let's see, I need to be below 0.005, inclination below 3 degrees, and a period between 5 hours 57 minutes and 6 hours 1 minute. So hopefully by the end of this maneuver, I will achieve that. If not, well, I will adjust. Oh, and there it goes. We are complete. Oh, this is the orbit for my other space telescope. I want it at 0 degrees. I might not have enough delta V to do that. I might need to redesign that particular rocket. I might need to redesign it anyway. We're just gonna accept that node and we're gonna point prograde because why not? And there we are, the first geosynchronous satellite. Let's see where we ended up, shall we? I'll warp just a little bit. Oh, we're over Africa. But you'll notice we're staying in roughly the same spot. Now, of course, I was also moving the camera because I was time warping. But it will form a small, what's called an analemma on the surface, and what that is it's basically a figure 8. If you were standing on a point and you tracked the movements of the satellite, it would form a small figure 8 in the sky. The sun actually does the same thing. If you take a photograph at the same time of the same day every year, you will see it form an analemma. Or maybe it's the same time every day for like a month. I don't know. There's some way you can go out and you can actually see the analemma. I do actually have a communication satellite for Mars that's currently building. But I think that's it for this episode. Remember, I'm Taki117, and remember, it's only rocket science.